While Ryan Blaney celebrates winning and punching his ticket to the championship four, NASCAR Race Control removes Christopher Bell from his position and puts William Byron into the championship race. Let's break down all that just happened in the NASCAR Martinsville playoff race. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's break down NASCAR's Martinsville playoff race. A lot of action, no snooze fest, the softest tire that Goodyear has ever brought to a racetrack. Turned out to be a phenomenal event, a lot of tire wear, a lot of interesting strategy. We had a good battle for the win at the end of this race. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, all of them needing to win to go to the championship race. Ryan Blaney ends up on top, but the main storyline is going to be William Byron and Christopher Bell battling in the closing laps, and some race manipulation going on between manufacturers, and in the end, Christopher Bell wall riding. NASCAR actually claims that that was a safety violation and removes Christopher Bell's finishing position from, I think it was 18th at the time, and moves him to 22nd, which would put William Byron 4 points in. A big mess, I think. Let's get down into it. Let's break down all of the action that just took place at Martinsville. We have a lot of good things to talk about, but let's talk about the race control situation, which is something I'm just going to try to analyze to the best of my ability. So in the closing laps of the race, William Byron is holding off Ross Chastain and Austin Dillon right behind him, right? And those are all Chevy drivers, right? So there was clear somewhat race manipulation on the radio, right? I think it was the 3 car saying, does the 1 car know the deal, what we're trying to do, or something similar to that. And that's clear that the 1 car, the 3 car, did not want to pass the 24, right? I mean, it wasn't clearly stated, but it was obvious what they were doing after, listening to the radio call. On the other side of this, the flip side, Christopher Bell, who needed 1 position to make it into the championship, right? Byron had to keep his position. He couldn't lose a spot. Bell needed to gain a spot to get the tie, and he won the tiebreaker. Christopher Bell, all of a sudden another Toyota driver is told on the radio, on the final lap that Christopher Bell needs 1 point or something very similar to that. And immediately after that, Bubba Wallace, driver of the 23 Toyota, reiterates that he's having a flat tire and just slows down all of a sudden on the final lap coming to the checkered flag, and Christopher Bell automatically passes him, which is certainly interesting. I think that's sort of obvious race manipulation. Not sure what you can really do about that, but I don't want to focus on that. NASCAR gave us the reason that they removed Christopher Bell, and that was for a safety violation of riding the wall. So, we can take a quick look. Let's take a look at what he did, right? Christopher Bell slides into the wall, but this looks more like a wreck to me, right? What are you going to start, penalizing drivers for wrecking? I don't think he passes a single driver on the wall. Now, the only thing that I could say that would be in NASCAR's favor about this instance is he does mash the gas while still on the wall. That could be deemed as wall riding because he hit the gas, gassed it back up while against the wall, and sort of rode around the wall that way to avoid giving up that position again. But I don't think he was going to lose a position anyway. I don't think he gained a single position. Let's take a look back at why this rule was put in place. This is Ross Chastain in 2022. I was in the grandstands for this race, and Ross Chastain clearly just gasses it up, rides the wall around the corner. I think what Christopher Bell did, we can compare the two, is a completely different deal. What Christopher Bell does is he gets loose, slides up the racetrack. This was a disadvantage for him to hit the wall, but he does hit the gas a little bit later on and coasts to the checkered flag. That was the reason that NASCAR took Christopher Bell and Adam Stevens and a Joe Gibbs Toyota out of the championship four, which I'm going to need a better explanation because I don't understand. And with the way that NASCAR there has been talks amongst fans of the Hendrick favoritism for decades now. You can go back to Jeff Gordon in the early days, and then even recently this year, Indianapolis with Kyle Larson. This just doesn't help the situation, and I'm not going to come out and say that NASCAR is obviously helping Hendrick Motorsports, but the resume supports that they don't hurt Hendrick cars and that they do help Hendrick Motorsports cars. I'm not claiming at all that's what NASCAR is doing, but this just gives another reason for the fans to point at NASCAR officials and Hendrick Motorsports and discredits what they do, right? That Kyle Larson win at Indianapolis, he was probably going to win that race anyway, but because of the calls made by NASCAR, the whole storyline after the Kyle Larson win just discredits his Brickyard Ford win. I don't want William Byron to win a championship and it's discredited because of something like this by a majority of fans and those in the NASCAR community. That's what makes it so frustrating. But Ryan Blaney wins the NASCAR race today in Martinsville for the second consecutive year, the Martinsville Fall Race Xfinity 500, and goes to the championship four. Ryan Blaney looks confident. Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano all look confident. Let's take a look at the point standings here, right? And I want to reiterate that the top three all stepped up and won in the NASCAR play. This was one round where I feel like, we go back to the first two rounds of the playoffs. I feel like it was more of these drivers made a mistake and missed it. These drivers messed up and couldn't get the points they needed. But I felt like this round, everyone, all 8 of these drivers were at the top of their game, and they pushed each other to be better. 3 of these different winners all in this round, and you see it. Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, all of them pushed each other so hard, did everything they could to get a win, punch their ticket in, and you saw talent on display, especially last week in Miami. Same thing today with Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, all of those in must-win situations to get in, all stepped up, and Ryan Blaney was able to capitalize and win at Martinsville, punch his ticket to Phoenix for the championship. I thought that was incredible to watch. That's why I hate the storyline is not that. The storyline is a officiating call by NASCAR at the end of the race. That's what makes it so frustrating. But William Byron with the 3 wins hasn't won in quite a while, but William Byron is in. Joey Logano, sort of the one that has not been deemed as the best driver all year long, but we do have to remember he has 3 wins this year and has been really fast throughout the playoffs and has really stepped up from how disastrous this season was going earlier in the year, right? You go back to before Nashville, that Nashville win, looked like it'd be a disastrous year for Joey Logano. It looked like Kyle Busch's season at that point in time. I remember talking about that, but they stepped up, were able to come back, and now they're in the championship four. Tyler Reddick's obviously been fast at multiple racetracks, a lot of wins that got away from him throughout the summer portion, and then Ryan Blaney, of course, also with a few wins this year, is obviously going to be a big championship threat going into next week. I think it's all even. I don't really know who the championship favorite would be, right? Ryan Blaney going for 2, Joey Logano going for his 3rd championship. Blaney going for the 2 in a row. Not entirely sure, but that is the championship four. Let's talk about the guys on the other side of this. The heartbreak, right? Christopher Bell, 4 points out after the call. Showed great sportsmanship after the race. I think he went up to William Byron and told him it's fair game and told him to go win the championship, something similar to that. You have Kyle Larson that missed it by 7 points. Man, I really disappointed in Kyle Larson because with the speed they've had all season long and with the speed that 5 car has had, there's really no reason that team and the speed that Cliff Daniels puts into that car, that the team, the pit crew, the driver should have made so many mistakes over the last 3 years to where they couldn't have gone into the Final Four this year and won one of those championships. Really frustrating, I think, for the 5 team. I go back to when they didn't race in Charlotte. I go back to a few other instances where Kyle Larson got in some accidents for, silly situations and cost him a few points. Well, it went down to 7 points for Kyle Larson, and that's why he misses the championship race. And that, to me, as a fan, is really frustrating to keep watching. So that's just my opinion, right? I have nothing against Kyle Larson, but I feel like there's a lot of points. I think they should be dominating. I think this should be, with as fast as that car is, I think this should be almost Jimmy Johnson level domination. I think you should be winning multiple championships. Hasn't won a championship yet in the next-gen car. And he's obviously been the best driver in the next-gen era and team in the next-gen era. Just want to mention that. Denny Hamlin blew so many opportunities, blew so many stage points this whole round. He was lucky to make it this far. I will say NBC does a great job at covering NASCAR, but the last few weeks, where are the post-race interviews, right? We never heard from Denny Hamlin or Chase Elliott after the race, which was really upsetting to me because those were the big storylines, and didn't hear from either one of those drivers is really frustrating. But yeah, Chase Elliott obviously going for the win in the late stages of the race, couldn't quite get it done. Chase Elliott was dangerous. He was pushing himself to do anything he could to get in, but just didn't have enough. I think Chase Elliott's going to be really strong going into next season. He was strong at the end of this year. He was strong really throughout the regular season, was consistent, but came off of a year where he was injured and he was, behind that entire season. I think Chase Elliott will be really good next year and could be back to championship form in 2025. That's my prediction. Let's take a quick look at the top 10 in the race, right? Ryan Blaney got the win. I mentioned Chase Elliott finishing second, Kyle Larson third, but those two had to get the win to advance. Austin Cindric, solid day for him, finishing the 4th position. He's had a rough season all year long, so for Cindric to get another top 5 to sort of finish out the year in the second to last race is good for him. Denny Hamlin, 5th place, had to get a win. William Byron, 6th place, just enough to get in. Austin Dillon, 7th. That's a solid run for Austin Dillon, right? A big increase on the short track package for RCR. Kyle Busch was in the top 10 until the wheel fell off late in the race, so once again, that disastrous season is continuing for the driver of the 8 car. But a great run for Austin Dillon to finish in the 7th position. Ross Chastain right behind him. Obviously, a little bit of race manipulation we talked about earlier between those two. Ross Chastain finishing the 8th position. Brad Keselowski looked really strong in this race. Showed a lot of speed in the early portions of the race, in the mid portions of the race, but wasn't quite able to get back on top after some strategy calls. Finishes the 9th position. Solid run for him. And then Joey Logano finishing in the 10th position to round out the top 10. Nice recovery for him. Last week was really bad, but Joey Logano looking for a little bit of momentum going into another similar shorter oval next week in Phoenix to race for championships. That's it. That's really all I think there is to break down regarding today's Martinsville race. It was a good race. It was a solid race. I like the tire compounds. I think it made the racing a lot better than what we've seen. Saw a couple of crashes. It looked like we're getting closer and closer to actual Martinsville racing, which is something I feel like we swayed away from in 2022 when we issued this new race car. I think we're getting very close to back to that Martinsville racing. It doesn't have to be beating and banging to the finish every lap, which is not always what you get, but I do think we're getting very close to back to watching a Martinsville race, what feels like a Martinsville race. We're getting really close to that, and I think we were really close today. But that's it. I'm really upset about what happened at the end of the race with the call to take Christopher Bell out. I don't like that call at all. That's just my opinion. Please let me know what you think down below. But that's it. Really all there is to discuss following this race in Martinsville. And of course, like and subscribe if you like the video. Please share the video if you do. I really do appreciate it. And of course, about Kyle Busch getting a 2-lap penalty for a wheel falling off. Let's get rowdy.